What's good, y'all? I know it's been a hot minute, but if you guys have been following me on the gram or on Twitter, both of which can be found in the description, please make sure to follow your boy. I know, shameless plug, it is what it is. But if you guys have been following me, then you would know that I was busy celebrating my birthday this past weekend. My birthday was August 29th. I did make a community post about that. Some of you have seen it. By the way, I appreciate all the love on that post. It was definitely seen and appreciated. Thank you again. I had a lot of friends over at the crib, had a great time. But listen, the grind don't ever stop. And during my little break, I decided to watch the highly talked about horror film by Lee Daniels called The Deliverance on Netflix. And when I say this is probably the most hyped Netflix movie to date, I'm not exaggerating. I mean, this was heavily, talked about. A lot of people were telling me to check it out. Me and wifey watched it, and people are losing their damn minds on this movie, and I can honestly understand why. So in today's video, I'm gonna be giving my thoughts on the movie and let you know if I think that it's dope and you should go watch, or if it's a nope and you shouldn't even bother. I'm gonna try and not give spoilers here, but I can't promise anything, but I really am gonna try. But anyway, Lee Daniels, the famous Philly director who made classic movies like Precious and The Butler, and directed shows like Empire with Terrence Howard and Taraji P. Henson, and the show Star with Queen Latifah, has made another movie and decided to dip his toe into the horror genre and directed and produced this. And I honestly was very surprised at how good this was. Now, I gotta tell y'all, when it comes to scary movies, me and wifey are like scary movie connoisseurs, okay? We have seen almost every type of scary movie there is, especially when it comes to films like this, where it deals with spirits and exorcisms and demonic, spirits and all that. So I know what I'm talking about when it comes to making a good scary movie. And I gotta say, this was very impressive. I was impressed at what Lee Daniels did in this movie in regards to producing a horror film that incorporated a lot of different elements of the genre, even though it's really not in his wheelhouse. Now let's be clear. We're not talking about Wes Craven or M. Night Shyamalan, who, another famous Philly director. Listen, Philly in the building when it comes to the film industry, okay? We out here. We outside now. All right, don't get it twisted. Don't sleep on Philly. But Lee Daniels isn't known for horror or suspense filmmaking. Now, he did executive produce the horror film The Reading with Monique, but he didn't write or direct that film, so I don't really count that as like his work. But The Deliverance is his baby. That's something he directed. That's, he called the shots on that. And for him to incorporate, the basic elements of horror film genre, that's like suspense, gore, pain, whether that be physical pain, emotional pain, danger, all those things were shown in this movie. And I just want to kind of break this thing down by elements. So let's get into it. So this film, if you didn't know, was based on a true story. And that story was about a mother by the name of Latoya Ammons and her 3 kids and her mother Rose Campbell, and them living in this haunted house in Indiana back in 2011, which was not that long ago. Now, it's important to point out that the movie is an imagining of the story that was told by Latoya and not like a one-to-one exact copy of what transpired in real life in that house. The movie stars Andra Day, who is playing the role of Ebony Jackson. Now again, this story isn't a one-to-one, so names and portrayals in this movie are gonna be a little different compared to what happened in real life. So I just gotta keep saying that. I gotta keep reiterating that. But Andra Day plays Ebony Jackson, who's based off of Latoya Ammons. Now, Ebony has 3 kids also. The oldest son, Nate, second oldest daughter, Shantae, and the youngest son, Dre. They just moved into their new home in Pittsburgh with Ebony's mother, Alberta, who is based off of Latoya's mother, Rosa. Now, Alberta is played by the amazing Glenn Close. If you are a 90s baby like myself, then you remember her as the famous Cruella de Vil in the movie 101 Dalmatians. She is definitely a highlight of this movie to me, as you can really see her range on screen and what she brings to the scenes. Ebony has a criminal past, right? She's went to prison. She also has a history of alcohol abuse, and when she drinks, she becomes very violent, right? Very belligerent with her kids. This leads to Child Protective Services being called. And so because of this, she's been assigned a caseworker by the name of Cynthia, who's played by Monique. Now, before I go any further here, I do want to get into the characters here a bit, because you could see that there was a lot of built up anger and trauma and dysfunction all throughout the movie, especially between Ebony and Alberta. That dynamic to me was the main reason why the movie even had any legs to stand on, because in the first 5 minutes, these two are already at each other's throats. Like, it's clear that they don't really fuck with each other like that, and that there's some deep underlying issues between them. But you go through like half the movie to really, you got to go through half the movie to really even understand what it was. Now, even though there was tension between these two characters, there was still a love there, because in the movie, there's a scene where, Ebony's mother, Alberta, she's going to the doctors because she has cancer, and she's getting her treatments. And as she's leaving the doctor's office, the clerk at the front tells her that she's behind on her treatment bills, to which Alberta says, oh, it must be Medicare, or, it must be them messing up. I'll talk to them later and get it straightened out. The clerk tells her, we stopped accepting Medicare years ago. And Alberta says, well, wait, who's been paying my bills then? To which the clerk tells her that her daughter has been paying. So even though there is some resentment between the two, there's still love there. But that relationship will play itself out later in the movie, because the youngest son, Dre, starts talking about and starts talking to this unseen presence that he calls Trey, who lives in the basement of the house and sometimes in the bedroom closet. Dead animals start to, appear in the basement, and Dre sometimes goes into the basement in these weird catatonic state on multiple occasions. Now, the other kids, Shantae and Nate, also start acting funny. Now, the dysfunction in the family was something that definitely pissed me off. Now, I know that I said I liked the movie, and I still stand by that, but there was something that was just something I didn't like, and I gotta keep it 100. There were some things I didn't like. The family dynamic was so dysfunctional in the movie, and in a lot of ways, I thought it was overdone. I mean, you have scenes where Andra Day's character is cursing at the kids, punching them in the mouth, pushing them, and there was just so much aggression going on from this character that I honestly thought about turning the shit off sometimes, because it was just so much of it. But I also got to remember that, unfortunately, this type of lifestyle is a reality for some people, and they have to deal with that. And they got to deal with some parents like this. This is a type of lifestyle that is a reality for some people, and they had to deal with parents like this growing up. I understand putting it in as representation, because this is something people deal with, and this was needed to introduce Monique's character as the CPS worker who kept threatening to take her kids away from her, and if she didn't tighten up. Now, as she's trying to get things right, get things in order, evil presence that's in this house is just getting stronger and stronger and stronger. So much so that when they go to school, all three of the kids have these inexplicable psychotic episodes that lead to them going to the hospital and getting evaluated. They obviously don't find anything in their evaluations, and they send the kids back home. Now, while all that is going on, there's a woman by the name of Reverend Bernice James, who's played by Ajanay L. Ellis Taylor, who ends up confronting the mother, Ebony, and telling her that she's a pastor who's connected to an incident that happened in that same house that they're living at 20 years prior, in which a mother basically just offed her whole family and then offed herself. Now, she claims that a demon possessed the mother, and the demon is now possessing Ebony's family. Now, the way that Ajanay's character came into the film, to me, I thought it was pretty random. She just sort of appeared in the movie. I thought they could have talked about her background a little bit more, seeing as how she would play such a big role in the film. I mean, even in movies like The Exorcist and movies like that, they always give background on the pastor that's going to be doing the exorcism, and whoever that person is that's gonna be performing the big thing, right? Because it helps for the audience to get to know the character, the background. It just helps to create that likability factor. Now, by this time in the movie, the children are taken into custody, and Ebony is evaluated psychiatrically. The social worker, Cynthia, played by Monique, is keeping a very close eye on the youngest child, Dre, because he is the one that's most affected by this demon because it's attempting to overtake and control him. And that's another thing that's always, just kind of bothered me about horror movies or exorcism movies like this, because why do these ghosts go to the kids all the time? Now, not to spoil any of the movie for those who haven't seen it yet, but this is the point where shit starts to get real with the youngest son, Dre, and Ebony ends up, basically stealing him away from the hospital, which I thought was very unrealistic. But anyway, the mother, Ebony, and the pastor, Bernice, exorcist, they end up taking the little boy from the hospital and they took him home to try and get that demon out of him. From here, that's where it went into go mode. I mean, it was in full go mode. The gas was on at that point. And this is where the movie gets wild and crazy. Now, I'm not going to say anymore in regards to the plot in the movie. I'm definitely skipping around on some things, but I do want to save time for my personal thoughts about the movie overall. So overall, I thought this movie was a really decent attempt from Lee Daniels to step into the world of horror with this story. Now, with that being said, I thought there was some more meat that was left on the bone in this movie, especially towards the end of it, where the demon and Ebony sort of come face to face, right? It's the big showdown. I thought that Ebony's traumatic background was gonna rear its ugly head a little bit more. I thought that at times the story did feel a little rushed and all over the place. I think they could have done a better job on the pace of the movie. Now, I have seen some people out there giving these warning videos, especially on TikTok, not to watch because you might catch spirits, from the movie and it's too demonic to watch. And to the people doing that and making those videos, they are truly over exaggerating. It is really not that deep. However, I do understand that a lot of people don't like watching these types of movies for religious reasons. And I feel like, and they feel like it's unholy and all of that. So I get it, right? Like they feel like it's witchcraft and it's, all that kind of stuff. I get it. But please relax, okay? You're not going to hell if you watch this movie, guys. It's just entertainment, okay? But I felt that this movie was all about the 3 F's. Now, what do I mean by the 3 F's? Family, faith, and forgiveness. All right, the movie kept coming back to those themes, and I thought that Lee Daniels caught the essence of those themes pretty well. He could have went a little bit more into depth of the relationship between the mother, Alberta, Ebony, at least to the exact moment that they fell out, right? Like what exactly caused it. They did kind of go into detail a little bit, but I thought that, especially in a movie like this, it would have really helped out a lot, especially towards the end. Also, I felt that they could have went into more detail on the relationship of Ebony and her children's father. Now, in the movie, the father, they said was in the military and he was stationed in Iraq, but the relationship between them two was already in a bad spot before that, according to the movie. So a little bit more context was needed with that for me. But I thought that Lee Daniels attempted to tie the original story that was true with his own creative expression to try and give his spin on a scary movie. And I think he did that pretty well. So what would I give this movie out of 10? I would give it a 7.5 out of 10. And the reason for that is because I didn't see this coming, right? For Lee Daniels, who mainly focuses on dramas, to come out and do a horror flick. So my expectations were pretty low, right? Obviously, I didn't really expect it. I wasn't really checking for this movie, but I think he managed to tackle this pretty well. Now, granted, it's not like horror is difficult to do, right? It's kind of hard to mess up a scary movie, and a lot of production companies and a lot of studios throw a scary movie out there because they know that it'll sell, right? So it's not like it's it takes the most creative imaginative minds to come up with a horror movie, right? It's kind of hard to mess up a movie, like I said, but I think he tried to give depth and nuance to some of the characters. And at the end of the day, this was a movie that was carried by Glenn Close, okay? She really showed why she was the decorated actress that we all know her to be, because it was evident, very, very evident that, in the scenes that she was in, that she was miles above everyone else as far as acting ability, timing, storytelling, all that. And mind you, this movie has some stars in it, right? Omar Epps, Ajahnay Ellis-Taylor, Tasha Smith, Caleb McLaughlin from the hit show Stranger Things, Andra Day, Monique, right? Like these are no slouches in the world of television and film. But now to the moment you've all been waiting for. Right now we get to the big moment, right? Is this movie dope or nope? And to me, guys, this is a dope. Okay, I would recommend you watch it if you are either a Lee Daniels a fan or just a fan of the horror film genre in general. I don't think you're gonna be disappointed. Like, you know, like granted, you have to kind of, I feel like you got to kind of go into it with the mentality of, you know, understanding who the director is and what the director was trying to do with the movie, and understand that this isn't someone who really focuses in on the horror film genre, right? So if you go into it thinking about that, that's something that you kind of will make sure to keep your expectations around there. I don't think you'll be disappointed. But at the risk of making this video absurdly long, I'm going to end it here. If you made it this far, please don't forget to smack a like on the video. And also don't forget to subscribe for the one time. Peace.